Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Fernandomata in the 5-minute pool on ICC. Let's open with e45, knight f3, and maybe we'll see what he does after bishop c4. Maybe an Evans Gambit? I've had a couple requests on the channel, and he declines the Evans Gambit. That's not cool, man. You're supposed to take that pawn. All right, well, I'm sort of freestyling this at this point. I have a feeling if I take on e5, bad things will happen, like queen g5, hitting the knight and also hitting the pawn on g2. So I should probably refrain from playing that move. What to do in the meantime? Is that really that bad? Knight takes e5 queen here. Yeah, I shouldn't mess with that. I think it's a bad sign. Maybe could do c3, knight takes, and just queen takes. Yeah, let's do that. That's simple enough. And we get to threaten mate, which is always nice. We'll probably play queen f6. And I was thinking avoid the queen trade now. So do this. I have a slight space advantage. I've already pushed my pawns on the queen side. That's nice. Let's just play d3 now and try to get this knight going, like knight d2 to f1 to e3, perhaps. Let's go here. He'll probably move his knight now, like knight e7, I would expect. Yeah, and now maybe take and put the knight on c4 where it attacks his bishop. Bishop g5 becomes possible now, too. b6 might be an interesting pawn sack. Let's play bishop g5. Just see where he wants to go with his queen. Ooh, I didn't see that move. Oh, okay, good tactic. Yeah, completely fell for that one. All right, got to take, and at least we can castle now. Queen f7, I don't know if that's really a threat, per se. He might want to stick his king on d7. He doesn't want to castle queenside because then knight takes a5 is possible. Also, maybe I can get my queen into a7. All right, maybe I'll have some compensation. That's what happens when you blunder a pawn. You just got to play it off as a sacrifice. You can do that with a pawn. If you blunder a piece, sometimes your opponents won't be as forgiving. But a pawn, you can get away with that. Okay, let's play, I think b6 is a good move. So let's do that. You might put a rook on f8, but I can even take then and get 2 rooks for the queen. I like b6 now before he gets a chance to play b6 himself, stabilizing the position. Now d4 maybe, just blast open the center. I don't see why not. He really might want to play rook f8. Does not. Okay, but now if I take, is he going to play rook f8 then? I can play queen f7 check, but he can block with his queen. Let's take. If he takes with the knight, I take, and then the queen is coming in. His king is going to be extremely exposed. I don't trust this position for him. Okay, so he plays rook there. So I was thinking queen d4 now. Hitting d6 multiple times. He could play d5. d5, queen c5 maybe? Trying to get into d6. Whew, complicated position already. Maybe d5 we take first, and then decide what to do. If I take, is knight f4 a problem? Nah, probably I take with double check. It's got to be good. Okay, let's take once, and then decide. Because c takes, he's opening his king even further. I like the look of that for us. We got to watch g2. I mean, he could play knight into f4 sometime soon, maybe, which would threaten not only queen takes g2 mate, but also knight e2. I suspect he should just play c takes d5, though. But then I get queen c5, and I'm eyeing d6 and also c7 at the same time. So if queen c5 and he just takes the knight, can I win somehow? I think I could just check and then take b7 at the very least. Yeah, let's go for that. This is kind of a leap of faith, but I think I can do this. Also, not to mention if he takes and I check, e6 is going to be hanging as well. What about take, rook ad1 check, king e8, Queen b5, king e7. Can't believe I don't see a mate there. Ah, just queen d7 then. There it is. Okay. So he can't really take more than knight. So again, that line is d takes c4, rook a d1 check, king e8 forced, queen b5 check, king e7 only move, and then queen d7 checkmate. It's a nice line. So this knight is untouchable. Meanwhile, we're threatening queen c7, king e8, knight d6 check, and mate for starters.
Check.
Yeah, I think he's probably busted here. Unless he can take now. Okay, so here, I can't do that same line. Check, king e8, check, because he's going to escape towards the queen's, so towards the king side, rather. If I check here, he'll play king e8. I take e6. Maybe knight e7 there. I think, ooh, tricky stuff. I think I can go queen c7, king e8, queen f7 check. Yeah, queen c7, king e8, queen f7 check, king d8, rook d1, king c8 forced, and then, yeah, queen d7 or queen e8, checkmate coming. I'm just spending a little time looking at that because it's a forcing line, and I think it's just a win. So, yeah,
check.
Let's do that. He's got to play king e8.
Check.
Here. He's got to play king d8. Now rook d1 is coming next.
Check.
There's no way he can block the checks. Yeah, so actually it's just mate on the next move, queen c7, checkmate. Wild game. You know, I did end up gambiting a pawn, even though I didn't play
checkmate.
The Evans, intending to give up my f-pawn. But, yeah, that was a fun one. Let's go back and take a look at that. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and I was hoping he would play bishop c5. Against knight f6, I wasn't completely sure what to do, because in the past I've played knight g5, but it's been a long time since I went into some of the sharp lines that are possible in the two knights after knight g5. I know myself as a e4, e5 player from the black side. The Evans was always a difficult line for me to meet. It still is a difficult line to some extent. I think I found a couple like potential antidotes, but this remains a pretty promising gambit. This is like one of the gambits I would hold in pretty high regard. Right up there with stuff like not quite Marshall Gambit territory. Like that's considered to be almost like a forced draw for black, if black knows their stuff. But it's a high quality way to give up a pawn. So for those of you who don't know, the main idea is bishop takes b4 and then c3. And then after black moves this bishop, playing d4 and trying to open lines in the center. Black is losing time because they took that pawn and now has to retreat the bishop again. And white is using that time, trying to parlay that time into central dominance and quick development. Often queen b3 comes. f7 is a vulnerable point for black in the Evans Gambit, so white can just try to hammer that pawn. But he declines the gambit. He plays bishop b6. I went a4, trying to trap the bishop. Not sure about a5, but I think a6 is the main move. I'll add the engine now, because after a5, b5, and then knight d4, I was on my own. I played c3. Okay. So I was saying that I had a bad feeling about knight takes e5, because this is often the punishment. There's a line where actually, after bishop c4 on move 3, if black had played knight d4 there, it's kind of like a kiddie trap, basically, but knight takes e5 at that point would be bad for the exact same reason, queen g5, hitting this and this. And the common way to lose from this position is knight takes f7, being greedy, going for the fork. Queen takes g2, rook f1, queen
check.
takes e4 check, block with a bishop,
checkmate,
and then smothered mate. That's a pattern that's worth knowing for any e4, e5 player. For any chess player, really, not even a king-pawn player. So we didn't want to take the pawn, so I just played c3.
Check.
I took on f3. I took the queen here. And I wanted to avoid a trade because I felt like maybe his queen would be misplaced on f6. And if I were to initiate the trade, that would help his development. Knight takes, and he gets to attack this pawn. So I didn't want to be in a hurry to swap queens. So queen g3, he played d6. I went d3. Bishop here. Knight d2. I think all this is fine. Now I took and then played knight c4. I also think that's okay. He played bishop c5. I guess I should probably castle or maybe play bishop e3 right now and just try to destroy that bishop. Yeah, I think I like castling. He might castle himself. Maybe bishop e3 now. And I could see white being slightly better with the space advantage. It's probably not much, but I do like my knight on c4. It attacks this pawn. Maybe he can go b6 soon, like either now or after a bishop trade. It should be a small advantage to white. But instead I played bishop g5, and he was very alert. He took on f2 right away. He spent 3 seconds on that move, so I think he was kind of anticipating this tactic. Maybe he's played a similar tactic before, because he was very quick on the draw.
Check.
So we must take it, and then queen takes g5, and I castled. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of comp because of his king issues. If he was already castled now, well, there might be a rook attacking my queen for one thing, but if his king was safe, let's say, then I wouldn't really have any compensation. I guess his pawns like are doubled, so the extra pawn is slightly negated by that fact, but not enough that I could hope to be fighting on even territory. But with his king issue, and this being a blitz game, I think it's pretty much an open question about the result of the game still. So he plays king d7, and yeah, the computer seems to think it's a good move, but undoubtedly his king experienced problems on this square. So b6. I just want to disrupt his pawn structure. Like if he gets to play b6 himself, then he's got this sole weakness on c7. It's hard for me to get at that. So I'd like to create some mayhem. Also strand his pawn on a5. So maybe his rook is encouraged to stay there guarding it. Maybe he should play a move like rook f8 right away and just offer 2 rooks for the queen. Because I would have been hesitant to do this because I lose the initiative. Like now his king is pretty safe. Yeah, I do have the 2 rooks, but I mentioned before that when you're trying to evaluate 2 rooks versus a queen, it's often about how many pawn targets there are available. And if there's a lot of pawns that the queen can go and attack, like weak pawns like c3, d3, potentially a4, then the side with the 2 rooks doesn't necessarily have an advantage. But if all the weaknesses are secure, and the queen has nothing to attack, then the rooks like gradually take over the game. But that's a tough call for him to play that move. I mean, he might not have yet sensed the danger. So he played c6. I went d4. He played knight g6, and yeah, his game started sliding downhill rapidly after this. So again, maybe he has to play a rook to f8, like rook af8, or maybe just rook hf8, probably more natural. Here, I guess it's maybe a slightly better version of it. I've already made some progress against his king. And this pawn on b6 will be a bother. Like maybe I can play rook b8 and take that pawn on b7. Then I'm only 2 squares away from a touchdown. So, yeah, he might have missed the boat on his rook f8 resource. Because after d4, knight g6, and I get to take on e5, this d file opens up. The d6 pawn becomes just a huge liability for him. I think it's already too late after queen d4. Did he have anything he could do to save himself after d takes e5? It's not pretty. The engine prefers rook af8, I suppose, so the king can maybe get to the a8 square, but it's still got to be really bad. Yeah, this is also extremely tough for him, just losing, in fact. So he went here, queen d4, hitting d6 with everything we have. Yeah, this move is practically forced now. d5. I took once. If e takes, I was thinking e6 check would be a good line-clearing move. Try to get his king out in the open. Also, I enable queen takes g7. I don't think he can survive. For instance, if here, like this rook can join the attack, then king d7, just take on g7. He's getting slaughtered. So he took, yeah, and this is a nice move, queen c5. You know, I played a little faster in the opening in this one. Even though I was playing something unfamiliar, I kept up with him on the clock, and I kind of played confidently, even though I lost a pawn with bishop takes f2. And it paid off because, like, now right around here, I could afford to spend a little more time. Like, you can see I spent a good 20 seconds before playing queen c5, just making sure that it was proper to sacrifice the knight, and that I was indeed crashing through on the d6 or c7 squares, or in the event that he takes the knight, getting this rook
Check.
d1 move in. Like, we had time to calculate this line with
Check.
queen b5, and then king e7, and queen d7
Checkmate.
mate. So,
Check.
if I had played more slowly like I usually do, then I might not have had sufficient time remaining to calculate a line like that. Yep, and he's just done for after queen c5. He doesn't have enough threats going, and his king is too open.
Check.
So he took, I took, take. Oh, now it's a forced checkmate.
Check.
Queen c7, king e8, and again, like, how much time did I spend there? I had 2:31.
Check.
So yeah, I was able to spend 50 seconds just verifying, because this felt like a position where there had to be a forced win or close to it. And it was just a matter of getting the move order right. It's worth spending that extra time, even in a blitz game, to make sure you get it right. If your chess instincts are saying, hey, you have a really good chance to just end the game right here, if you find the right move order, for sure spend the time if you have it available. Why not?
Check.
So queen c7, king e8.
Check.
Yep, and this check forced him into the line of fire. That d file proved to be significant.
Check.
Yeah, and then we get the
Checkmate.
Okay, that was a fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. I'll be back tomorrow with another blitz game. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.